Today I am making a dandelion salve using both dried dandelion root and some foraged dandelion flowers. Dandelion is obviously super common. It's another weed that most people try to get rid of. Dandelions come out in the springtime and they have those little yellow flowers, and the whole plant is edible. You can consume the roots as a tea or you can tincture them. The leaves make a nice salad, especially when they're the young ones. The flowers can be made into a jelly, into a tea as well. You can tincture them as well, and you can also use them to make an infused oil and then later a dandelion salve using that oil. Where we live, they tend to come out in April, late April, early May, and we always tend to leave them to grow at least one flush of them so the bees have them after their hibernation ends, and also so we can harvest some to use in various herbal remedies. Dandelions are full of antioxidants. That is why I like to tincture them and also make teas with them. Antioxidants help repair your body and help to fight off toxins that are in your body. It's also why I like to make a salve with them, because the antioxidant effect can help with skin repair. They are also anti-inflammatory, and so when you use a salve topically on your skin, it can help calm redness or mild irritation. To make this salve, you can forage dandelions if you have them around you. Definitely make sure to avoid foraging dandelions that have been sprayed with toxic pesticides or herbicides. Usually, where we live, the broad use of those chemicals in the city has been mainly eliminated, but individuals can still buy poisons like glyphosate and spray their own property. And so if you're walking down the sidewalk and you see dandelions growing along the edge of the sidewalk or something, you just want to know that those haven't been sprayed. I tend to forage dandelions in public parks because I know that they don't use pesticides and herbicides there anymore. You really want to avoid using dandelions that have been sprayed in your oil infusion and in your salve, because that would mean that you're applying those chemicals right to your skin, which we definitely want to avoid doing. If you have a field nearby or a public park or a forest or something, you should be able to find some clean dandelions. If you're like me and love making tinctures, make sure to check out my guide with 6 great tinctures to make in the summer, full of fresh ingredients that are easy to forage at this time of year. The recipe book is written for beginners, step-by-step ingredients the whole ways, with supply lists and tool lists. Although you probably already have what you need, you only need a few basic ingredients, and there are photos that take you along through each recipe. When you purchase it, you'll be able to download it and save it so you can easily refer back to the recipes. And if you're interested in purchasing that recipe book, there's a link for that in the description below. To make this salve, I used the flower heads, so I just took those from the plant, and then I also had some dried dandelion root on hand already, which I threw in to the oil as well. But if you want to use only the flower heads, that's totally fine. I, during the winter, like to have dandelion tincture on hand, and if I don't have enough root saved from the summer, I will order it online. And so if you also don't have a local source or you don't want to forage your own dandelion roots or flowers or leaves, I can leave a link for where I got that dried root down in the description. So to make this salve, you only need a few ingredients. The first is dandelions. When you are making salves, the first step is to infuse an oil with the plant material or the flower, and you want that plant material to be pretty dry by the time you do the infusion. And so what I like to do is forage the flower heads and then leave them sit to dry for a few weeks so most of the moisture has evaporated. This will just help make sure that the oil doesn't go rancid more quickly or spoil more quickly from the water content in plant material. You can pick some flower heads and leave them out on a paper towel or something just to get the water out of them. You'll need a carrier oil of some kind. I have fractionated coconut oil here, which is just liquid coconut oil that doesn't get solid. You will need a double boiler. I use a small saucepan and a glass bowl with a little whisk. I would recommend that you buy from like a thrift store or something a set of equipment like this little glass bowl, maybe a small saucepan and a whisk, so you can not worry about getting beeswax completely removed from your dish. As you can see, I make a lot of herbal remedies and the beeswax just never fully gets removed, and I just don't worry about it because I have this special set I got from a thrift store that I only use for my salves and stuff like that. You'll need a strainer or cheesecloth. I do find strainers are less of a mess to wash afterwards. The cheesecloth always has lots of plant material all over it. You will need a glass jar to do your extraction in with the dandelions and the oil. You will need beeswax, This is the beeswax pellets. They're just easier to melt, so I like them in the pellets. You can get the big chunk and then use a cheese grater or a knife to break it up into smaller pieces, but again, beeswax is hard to remove from, normal kitchen supplies, so I just prefer the pellets because they melt quickly. And then you need shea butter. I have this, I'll link the ones that I use in the description if you're interested, and I buy that in bulk because it's used in a lot of salves. And you'll need some sort of storage container for your final salve. I have these little amber ones. You can use any shallow glass jar that you have on hand. Sometimes we get little sauces and stuff that come in this size jar, and I'll often repurpose them to hold salves or lip balms or something that I make. You can also add essential oil like lavender for a scent or tea tree for more astringent properties. Tea tree essential oil will help with skin tightening, and it'll also help with wound recovery more quickly. So the first step is to make an infused oil. So you're taking the dandelions and you're putting them in oil and letting them sit for a few weeks until the oil has been infused with the plant's essential oils. Within the plant, the essential oils are what carries the beneficial properties. And so when you extract them into the oil then has those benefits in it. And that's what we can use to make the salve. So what you want to do is fill a glass jar. I'm using this pint jar, about 3/4 of the way full with dandelion plant material. You can use any parts. And then you want to add 1 cup of oil over top. So again, that's any carrier oil of your choice. I'm using fractionated coconut oil, but you can use jojoba oil, which would be really nice because it's full of vitamins and minerals, including vitamin E, which is good for your skin, but also helps to preserve the oil, the plant's essential oils that are in your infused oil. You can use sweet almond oil. You can use olive oil. Olive oil is so expensive that I tend to avoid it in my body products, but you can if that's what you have on hand. I have started the oil infusion process already just to be able to show you the final salve. This is an example of one that's been sitting for a few weeks. You can see how it's starting to take on the color of the plant. And this was, again, dried roots and flower heads. So that's what I'm going to use today. But yeah, you just put it in, cover it in oil, make sure it's completely covered so no plant material sticking out. If you do have plant material sticking out, you can simply add more oil. It's just that when we make the salve, you only want to use 1 cup of oil, so you can just measure that off. Then you just add a lid and put it in a sunny spot, not in direct sunlight ideally, but a sunny spot. Leave it there for about 5 to 6 weeks, and being in a sunny spot will help the extraction process progress quickly. We don't have huge counters, and so I tend to put all my extractions into the pantry. It's dark and cool, so it goes a bit more slowly, and so I tend to leave my oils extract for longer, about 2 months, but you can do whatever you would like and whatever you have available to you. Put a lid on your jar and then label it, because you will forget what it is and you will forget when you made it. So label and date it, and then set it in the sunny spot or a dark spot. And then after about 6 to 8 weeks, I again tend to go for the full 8 weeks, you just need to strain the oil off. So I'm going to strain mine off using a metal mesh strainer. It's what I found is the easiest to clean. I find that the cleanup from making stuff like this at home, which I really value because they're simple and don't have any preservatives and whatnot in them, but the cleanup for making them sometimes can be the reason I don't make them. So I'm always trying to think of how can I make this a bit simpler and easier to clean up. I mean, it's not a huge mess, but any additional dishes when you have a big family is just really annoying. So I'm going to use the mesh strainer and strain off this dandelion infused oil. Strain it off. You definitely want to squeeze all of the oil out of the plant material so you don't waste any. Now, when I strained it off, some did get through, some fibers, so I am going to have to use cheesecloth. I don't want that in my salve. All that plant material, I want to strain that right off, so I'm going to run it through again with some cheesecloth. Tried to make the process easier to clean up, and now we have more dishes. But lesson learned, if you're making this and you're using dried plant material, just consider using cheesecloth to begin with. So you can see it's kind of catching that plant material, slowly straining down into the jar. And it should be a clean strain with this cheesecloth. So I've strained it off nice and clean with that cheesecloth, and also a beautiful yellow color. The next step is to make the salve. I am going to make my double boiler by putting water in my little saucepan, and then in my glass bowl, I am going to add my other ingredients. So you will need 1 cup of your dandelion oil. I'm going to leave that out for now until the beeswax is melted, because heating it too long will zap all the essential oils which I want in my salve. So I'm going to just hold off on adding that until the end. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of beeswax. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of shea butter. It has a very distinct smell, shea butter. So I'm guessing that's about 1. And 1.5. 2-ish. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You should try to keep it close. The main thing is with beeswax, if you use too much, the salve won't be usable because it will be too hard. And so you want to err on the side of not using too much beeswax. But with shea butter, if you feel it, you can rub your finger and get some off just by that. And this is in its solid form. So if you add too much of it, it'll still be usable, because when it's hard, it's still, you can still use it. Now I'm going to melt the shea butter and the beeswax together, and then I'll add in the infused dandelion oil. I would definitely recommend using small chunks of shea butter to help it melt at the same rate as the beeswax, because otherwise you'll be trying to break apart the shea butter in your double boiler. So the beeswax is almost melted. I'm going to pour in my infused oil. And the beeswax will harden up, you see, and you just whisk it in. I'm going to call that good because I hate leaving it on the heat like that. So that is the melted salve. Now we're going to very quickly and carefully put it into our salve jar. One of these little jars, you can use whatever you have that's kind of not too deep. So you want to be able to get your finger in to get the salve when it's hardened. And just spoon the mixture into the salve. Okay, so I have lots left, which I will put into another jar in similar size. You don't want to go too deep because you won't be able to access it if you use a huge jar. So just use many small jars, and that will harden, as it is on the side here, into a salve. This will take, a day or so to harden. And you want to leave the lid off while it's hardening so you don't have any condensation. Water does make things like this spoil more quickly, so leave the lid off and let it sit 24 hours or so, and you should have a nice, soft, usable dandelion salve. I would recommend labeling it, as always, and dating when you made it. It will last for 6 to 12 months. I mean, I've never had one go bad, but if it has a really bad smell or you see mold or something, it might have gone bad, so just make another batch. I tend to make one large batch every summer and it lasts us for the year. I store all our salves in a dark, cool place. We have a pantry, and so I store them in there. I keep them out of the bathroom because it gets humid, and I keep them out of direct sunlight because that will also zap those essential oils in the salve. I simply use this, just take whatever I need, put it on my fingers and put it on whatever spots are red or really dry. It's very nourishing salve and good for all over. I will leave a link to the blog post with instructions on how to make the dandelion infused oil and the salve, so you can bookmark it and refer back to it without having to rewatch the whole video. Those will be in the description, and I'll also link in the description all of the products that I'm using in case you want to give those a try as well. Let me know how your salve turns out. If you are interested in other herbal remedies, make sure to subscribe and sign up for my newsletter. I send out one email a week with recipes and simple tips on how to make tinctures and salves and all things herbal remedies. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll speak to you in the next video.